On the path to peace and justice, we must let fear overcome us and rule our lives. Fear has negative connotations, such as the fear of a spider or the fear of getting hurt. However, there's a fear that many of us fail to acknowledge, but exists all around us. This fear has the power to keep us from doing bad and is what rules many of us to do the right things. This fear is the fear of the unknown. The unknown is something we cannot see or touch, but at the same time, it is what we feel. The unknown could be death, loneliness, or anything of that form. To many people who are religious, the unknown is better known as God. A religious person is taught to fear the wrath and everlasting power of God. It is God's power that determines whether or not you have been good or evil, and whether or not you are sent to heaven or hell. This is very similar to what many little kids are taught about the great Kris Kringle, also known as Santa Claus. Children are taught that if you are naughty, Santa Claus will not bring you a gift, but if you be nice, Santa will bring you a gift. Another example of how fear rules people's lives is in Gawain and Ragnell, when King Arthur reluctantly let his most trusted and best soldier, Gawain, take the hand of the very ugly Ragnell. Arthur feared death and did everything for a year he could to avoid that fate. It is through the fear of the unknown that can lead society towards peace and justice. In my life, I have gone through dark periods of my life in which I have done things that I regretted, things that would have ultimately led me into living the life of a criminal and left me living with the stigma of being a criminal. The reason I was able to pick myself up from these dark periods and live a life that I can be proud of so far, and a life that can make others around me proud of me, is the fear of the unknown, the fear of dying, the fear of prison, which is an unknown to me, the fear of my Lord and Savior. Although I have passed these dark periods, I still have fear in me. Fear of failing to become a doctor, fear of disappointing my parents, fear of not being successful. However, I have learned to use my fears as motivation to be successful because I do not want to see what I feared become reality. Fear strikes all, even the most richest and prettiest exude fear. For example, the beautiful princess in Ivan and the Fire River feared that Ivan did not like her. This is unfathomable considering how wealthy and pretty she was. I have grown to use the lessons I have learned from the different events that have taken place in my life to try to help me and my friends. For example, my friend Alex was a very obnoxious, rude, and belligerent person. He was always drinking, getting into fights, and just plain lacked respect for others. I felt the good thing to do was to talk to Alex about how his actions were detrimental to everyone around him and how he needed to change. After I talked to Alex, I noticed a sudden change in his demeanor. He was more courteous and chivalrous, and I noticed how this led him being a lot happier. I asked Alex what made him change, and he said after the conversation he had with me, he realized if he didn't change, he would be lonely and that he feared loneliness. An understanding of how fear and how it rules and regulates our lives can help us move towards equality, salvation, culminating in embracing of peace and justice. I realized when I played sports, I used to fear the fastest kid on the soccer field, the pitcher with the 90-mile-per-hour fastball, the tallest player on the basketball court, because I felt I wasn't as good as them. It wasn't until I learned to embrace my fears and understand that although I may not be as good as these players, they are also fearful of me. They fear losing to someone who is not as good as them. So with understanding there is fear on both sides, I was able to become a better athlete. Fear is reciprocal. It is not a one-way street. It goes both ways. When you understand what fear is, you are able to answer the deeper question of how to love and be kind and help others. Fear ultimately leads us down to the road of peace and justice.